So, in part 4, we're just going to discuss generally the condition of subud, including all the things that I had been talking about at that time, the 60s, the late 60s, early 70s. A thriving group, lots of happy people, large communities all over the world. They would meet in regions and nations and World Congress every few years or so, and a lot of excitement. Subi was here. He would travel. He traveled around the world several times, going to visiting, looking after the different groups. And as he said once, he cared about us more than our own father did, and that turned out to be true. And of course, that is point of view, but I mean, it was actually true that I get a lot more instruction and care and everything else from Subi, than I did from my own father, who I love, respect. But that's how it was. So in general, a happy group, but there were undercurrents. Everything's continually going wrong, which I've touched on briefly. On the whole, God was, I can't say what God was doing, but I mean, they were having their exercise of the power of God, and they were being enlightened, and they were learning, and they were feeling really good from doing the exercise, and we felt close. And meanwhile, Subi was giving us talks, which was kind of pointing us to how a noble human being actually comports themselves, what they actually do, and why they do it. What the point of it was, and he was giving us more and more clarity about what it was we were actually going through, and some suggestions and pointers about the best way to do it. Well, one of which was, I recall in LA, I remember him saying that actually the right way to be in the everyday world is you go ahead and use your heart and mind, and you go ahead and do all the things that you normally do. But in the background, be aware of the power of God. In other words, be aware that when your inner is moving about and stuff, or directing you in a certain direction, take it up and manifest it. As he said, put it into practice. And he also mentioned at that time that for some reason, Baba didn't know why, he said, Subud members are having a great deal of difficulty doing this, existing in this way. In other words, they would either use, I assume, they would either be all in the kind of inner world and kind of trying to exist in this world from the inner world. It wasn't working very well, at all. I mean, it doesn't work very well because you don't have any in that world. There's no forces in there. It's all from the other side. I mean, there are forces, but they don't, they're not for this world. The forces for this world come through, your body, your heart and mind, the things that you're given to work here. And he said that they were having a great deal of difficulty doing it. But I knew what he was talking about at the time. I had taken it up years earlier. And essentially it kind of boiled down to something I probably already mentioned before. Either you were kind of a normal person, and just an ordinary person, just like I am, just a regular person. And, and he said you would become more ordinary the further you went. And you could certainly witness that in him. I mean, he was, he would resonate with the common man in us. He would do things which, we all said, oh yeah, that's right, that's how you actually feel, or that's what you do, and that's how you are, and that's how he was. So the big elephant in the room then is how would you actually, if you did get around to it, which you should have gotten around to it from the very beginning, right, pretty much right away. It's like, well, the house is a mess, and before the guests come, we better let's clean it up and get it all ready so it'll be good when they come. It just was never done. It was just, the door was left open, and this thing that was here, it was out of place, should be over there, was just left there. They busied themselves and they got into testing a lot. And then they got into the habit of having these older members, the helpers, they would they dump any kind of issue with them, ask them to test about it, and then they would follow whatever the helpers said, they received. And then the members were kind of like, sort of, respected, but not spiritually, not on an equal, not having the power or the strength or the position to deal with spiritual things in the way that the helpers did. They had a ticket from the organization. They were the ones, they would meet, they would test, and they would say where we should meet and what they received, and different things, kind of orchestrate things. So this was not the way of things as they should be. This kind of dynamic did not encourage and welcome just, regular people to really become enthusiastic and take a big part in everything. Because after all, if you wanted to do something, well, they wouldn't just do it, they'd have to test it, and then a lot of times the testing would go against what you wanted to do or something. And it was kind of a lot of paperwork and a lot of stuff to do, figuratively speaking. So people just became more or less, they come and do Ladihan, they go to the Congress and sort of avoid the business, and mostly a lot, and just visit with each other, because between the regular folk, we were having a good time. We were learning all kinds of things because God was teaching us. Those congresses, gatherings in the region were always like God was very kind to us, so there'd be a good state there. There'd be a good feeling, and it'd be like a different world for all of us, just as any congress is for people, they kind of all are meeting together, and they're in their little bubble they're in, and sometimes not a very little bubble, but it's still, it exists because of that group of people all being together, and the different support and the different things that God is doing with them, different angels, whatever, they come and help out. I remember in LA once they had a it's kind of a regional or a state congress there. It was held downtown. It's a hall down there, and there was like an atmosphere. It was just around the block. There was a block there. You could go down to the end of the block. If your inner feelings were clean enough, you could see, my face, I didn't see everything, but I saw some things. You could kind of see, and you could check it out. You could see or the skirt of the angel, the big angel you can see up there. They look like exactly. You could see the skirt, something kind of a thing there where they were, boom, located, and providing a certain atmosphere for that group. You could walk outside of it and you'd feel completely different. You could walk into it and you'd feel so you would witness it, you could feel it. Whoa, we're back in that atmosphere. So really a time of hope, a time of many aspirations, lots of different things happened. The groups, globally, the group, they started try to start their own. And Buffett encouraged them, to start enterprises, which of course, because basically you can work for God or you can work for man, and if you work in a corporation or you work, unless they're really tuned into God and working for God, which is, a bit problematic there, more likely working for something else. But, people just were running corporations and stuff, but still it wasn't, well, in other words, I don't want to go there. It wasn't like, working for God. So you could choose, if you chose to work for God, then if you started your own enterprise and you were being guided by God, then, God would be your boss. And, you would run the business yourself, but God would assist you, God would help you, and the angels would kind of open things up or cause you to have tests and challenges and learn things in your enterprise. Your work was your worship, in that sense. And our work is worship, and so, it's an acting out of the living life that's within you. So, as I say, a lot of good things happened, but a lot of things failed and didn't work. Quite a few. Subud people, and part of the reason was because they had taken up the idea that when they didn't know what to do about something, they should test about it. Go to God, they would ask God what to do, and it was a Ouija board kind of thing, sort of an odd view of spiritual life where you just kind of, well, I won't say, but you can understand what I'm getting at. Instead of just, being regular people, taking a stand, as he said, you should take a stand. It doesn't matter where you take the stand, but just take a stand. In other words, manifest, be that person, be the person in the world. This is, how I operate. This is what I do, what I don't do, and so instead of growing strong like that, in that way, they would they grew weak, because they wouldn't use their heart and mind. They would go to the testing. In other words, it was, you might say it was like a temptation to them, although I don't go so far to say this is actually the case, but you could say that. You could say that was like, well, they should have figured it. They should have just gone ahead and used their heart and mind and had faith in God, and then if God, if it wasn't, kind of too cool, they would God would sort of nudge them in another direction. But instead they, using that testing things, it got to be, and then of course, as I said before, the ironic thing was, and really made it sort of tragic comedy, was that they didn't actually know how to test. They thought they did. They thought they were receiving, and they were, but just from different levels, not from the true testing. So, yeah, it was getting difficult. So what happened was that a group of the more, dedicated members that were actually really doing the exercise and really allowing God to work on them and everything else would kind of separated without intending to or anything. But we just kind of, we knew each other. If you worship God and you have that thing, then you recognize somehow, other people who do the same, and you kind of you're out in common ground. So you go into that group and you talk with each other and stuff like that. And, so that was kind of going on. So what is the right way to organize a group? Let's say you live in Austin, or you live in the United States, and you wanna organize your group. Well, I've looked at this for a long time, and I've been guided and shown things, which I'll share with you. It's really very simple what you would actually do. That would be, because in America, in our culture, and in some of the European countries as well, how we decide things is we decide things are pretty independent. So we decide things, we decide by voting. That's what we like to do. We'll vote for the chairman of the group. We'll vote for if we want to have a national congress. We'll vote for this and we'll vote for that. And the various things that come up, in a group, a large, sometimes 300, 400, 500 people, large group of people. That's how we would handle our affairs. We would take responsibility and we would handle our affairs. But of course, as should be pointed out, well, actually, we look like a regular group, but actually we're a spiritual group. So how would we integrate that spirituality or the power of God guiding us into it? Well, it's very simple. What you would do would be that if you would allow yourself just to be guided by God, which takes a while to kind of get to a point where you're willing and able to do that, but it comes along in the course of being purified and having more understanding about how life actually works and being given gifts by God and everything else, that you can get to a point where you're able to follow the guidance of God. And it just comes in. It's just that you're aware of it. In other words, I'm sitting here tonight and I'm giving this talk, but I'm also aware of the fact that, not too long from now, I'll be doing something else. I don't even have to think about what it is. I mean, I'll actually be lying down and going through other things then, but I'm aware of that. That's a guidance coming to me, and I'll follow it. I won't hesitate to follow it right now when it comes in, whenever it comes in. And that was another stumbling block because, which I got lucky because I was really wanted to do this and really. So they gave me things because I really tried hard and I wanted them. And of course I was inwardly, or whatever you want to call it, pretty stupid. I mean, so I'd always kind of not get the right idea. So they'd come and show me, okay, this is, they'd show me, give me a demonstration, make me do things that I could see. So the whole thing about following guidance is that, it's the thing that comes to you at the living moment, and as you're going along, you just kind of learn how to kind of stay on that wave, go with that wave. And the more you do it, the more it finds itself between that wave and something else, whatever something else might be. And you ride that wave. You're like a surfer for God's will on the big wave, you know. It's quite fun. That's what Subi did. I can say I know he did that because when I started following guides, I found I was just syncing up with and then understanding, you know, and being a part of what he was doing, what God was doing with him. And I was a part of it too, you know. Whereas before, you kind of outside of it, you say, oh, there he is, and he's doing this, and you imagine this and that, but it's not the same as a perception of the reality of it. One time, I was walking behind him, we were not very far, and all of a sudden something happened, and him and his wife were walking, and all of a sudden they were in paradise. They had gone off to paradise. I went with them, you know. I mean, I was, or at least I was aware. Yeah, I felt like I came along for the journey, and you know, there for a while, and then came back out. And you know, but that was the thing. I'm making this too long. The thing was that the reason people didn't follow guidance is because they would have a guidance, but then their heart and mind, things that hadn't been quieted down, or that weren't, you know, were interfering with well, yeah, no, that's good. That's a good idea. But I'm not going to do it right now because right now I'm doing this. Or okay, let's do that in 4 hours. So you know, with God, there's just timing is everything. It's like, so you're in it or you're not in it. And so there was a lot of that. Really quite a lot of it. You know, so what is the way of organizing a group in America in a democratic, you know, you can argue, but I mean, you can call it democratic, where we vote on things and we do things in that way. Well, you would vote. You would vote for your chairman, you would vote for the people who helped you, who are going to help new members, which, you know, when you really think about it, a new member is kind of a special thing because it's a soul that's being brought through this whole process, and as to be said, as we all know from our own experience, I mean, in the beginning, you said you're kind of like a baby. Your soul is woken up. It's kind of like, you know, very sensitive and what's going on, you know, kind of thing. Doesn't needs protection just like a baby does, and needs to be supported just like a baby does. And I would say, from my experience, for a couple of years, you keep working with this person, give them support, help them, kind of keep a lookout for them, kind of keep an eye, you know, as a father would, on them, without, you know, and being a bad father, being a good father, kind of stay in the background, but, you know, kind of being aware. And then when they want something, need some support, right there, you're right there. Oh yeah, what do you need? What do you need? No hesitation, no grilling or anything. No, you know, whatever. So, how would you do it? Well, you would get together with a group, and you know, maybe you would do a latihan, and then you would do it. But there's a question there too, because sometimes people after the exercise are particularly sensitive, so it's not a good time to bring up heavy, you know, worldly matters that sometimes are there are differences of opinion and stuff. So, but you could meet, you know, on a probably some evening on a night when you weren't having a group exercise, and maybe once every 3 months, you know. Or you could arrange, probably would be easier to, like you would do the lani and then afterwards there would be like dinner or something or some kind of thing, and then after that you would do it. But just every 3 months you can take care of all your business. Subud isn't, I guess, an organization, it's pretty simple. You know. And you would take from the whole group, you know, what the volunteers, you know, people, you know, well, we have this is opening, who would like to do this, who feels guided to do it, who feels inspired to do it, who feels they're able to do it, you know, all the different kinds of reasons why people might be motivated or want to try and do something. And you say, okay, so you, fine, good, so you write your name down, you put it into the hat, so to speak. And then you vote. They don't need to talk a lot, I think maybe they can say something, but probably better not, just take their names down and who they are, and, you know, maybe a brief statement, well, I want to be chairman because I have the time and I have some interest in it, but nothing much, maybe nothing at all. Just their name. So now you vote. Well, you're going to say, how can you vote? You don't even know. Maybe you don't even know the person. How can you vote on it? Well, because God knows the person. So, when you vote, instead of voting because of your outer self, you wait until you're moved. A thing which is pretty easy for any subud member who's been doing the exercise for very much of time at all, is to their inner, they have the capacity to raise their hand, or they have that capacity. Very simple, very, you know, first steps. And that's how we would run the group. So you'd be moved to vote, and how you would know you were being moved is just be quiet, restrain yourself, and don't do anything. Just wait, and see, watch. You yourself see, watch, and see if your hand goes up, not from your own will, but from being moved by the power of God, or just, let's just say, by being moved. Moved. The mysterious force moved it. Then, those people would take up that job, and they would do it to the best of their capacity. And then, you know, after 3 months, you would get together again, and you would say, okay, you know, I mean, with a chairman of a group, you would check on it every 6 months, see if everything was in order, and go ahead. Because you don't want to, if things are getting out of order in a dynamic group that's growing and everything, you don't want things getting messed up and for too long, maybe a little while, and then you fix it. But if, you know, it's like anything, if you leave it for too long to fix it, it starts to have its own existence, and it gets to a point where you can't fix it. It starts to be too much of a problem, or it completely breaks down and wrecks a whole bunch of stuff. So can't wait too long with human beings that are full of mischief and all kinds of things you're acting on and shit to keep, you know, let's say with chairman, for instance, probably every 6 months. But the most crucial job for the growth of subud is the person who's looking after new members. Now, of course, these kind of people, the kind of people who want looking after other people, are people who have some kind of social, they have an emotional IQ, they have their high emotional intelligence, they like to help other people, they get a big kick out of it, and they love to do it, they love other people, they really like other people, and they're caring, loving types of people, and they're responsible. They take responsibility for their job, things like that. But you don't need to know too much. So you can just let them. So anybody feels like wants to kind of look after the. Because we look after each other, but then sometimes the person is not. You can't help them, and they need more help, or somebody else is more suited to it, and you can direct them to them. Or you can have a kind of a group of. Let's say you have a group of 30 people. Well, you can have 1 or 2 or 3 of them, say. Maybe even 4 would probably be enough to kind of, be there in case somebody is saying, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm going crazy," or "I'm really feeling this," or in some kind of state that they need help to get out of, or just for other reasons because they have doubts or they don't understand something and they're just compelled to find out right now the answer. It's like a family. Mom and dad. You go to mom or you go to dad. If they're a good mom and dad, well, they can make you feel better and help you to understand, calm you down, and send you on your way. So that's the kind of people we want. But as I say, God knows who they are and what's appropriate, what isn't appropriate. He knows his creatures, and he loves his creatures. So naturally, he'll be guiding us. He'll guide us to have good people do that. People who can actually do the job. And so how will we decide? Well, we'll vote. We'll wait until we're moved to vote. Other people who are joining the group and are just coming in will not find this to be an odd group of people, because the only thing that's going on, which they can easily understand, is that when we vote on things, we all vote just like any other group, and there's nobody in charge, nobody's being oppressive and taking all the power. We're all in it together. We all vote on everything. That's the people normally vote on. But because you're a spiritual organization, you wait till you're moved, and that's not hard for people to accept. It's a group, it's a community thing. So we'll vote for those people. But then, in this case, not 6 months, but 3 months. After 3 months, you'll meet again. And at that time, you will have you will bring in the people who have just been opened, or haven't been opened for very long, are still pretty new and fresh and need assistance, or aren't quite sure what's going on, or trying to understand. And new members, or people who are even probationing, or not even opened yet. And then you'll have them come, and then you'll have the people who have been assisting these people also come. And then the ones who've been being helped will have 1 minute, no big deals here, but just a brief minute or less to say, well, the person that when they went to get help and they got, how was it? Was it useful? Did you have a good response? Is there something that didn't work? And, let us know. Tell the truth. As diplomatically as you can. But tell the truth. Was it good or wasn't it? It was not good. Okay, but just no recrimination. Just give us feedback. And then also from the ones who we voted them in, that they're going to help the members, the new members, or any member that needed help. Maybe it's an older member they're going through something. Oh my God, they needed some assistance. I remember in the early years, sometimes we had people with terrific, a bunch of processing and things they were going through, and we'd go and sit with them. We'd sit with them for many hours, and we'd be with them, and we'd support them by being there and giving them whatever assistance we could. Mostly just by pretty much just staying calm around them, so that it made it easier for them. That's how it works. That's what happens. So then we would ask them. They would have 1 minute as well, no more. We don't have a meeting with all kind of tiresome things going on and on into the night. Most of us, we really don't have time for this. We didn't come here to become psychologists and psychiatrists. We have other things to do. We're working on a machine right now. It has to be fixed by the morning. People in general, there's not that many of them that are that interested in the social, person having. So you keep it short. So the ones who've been assisting will make a brief statement, less than a minute. Say, well, how was it for you? Well, I loved it. It was good. It was marvelous. I had a great time. I met some nice people. I'm really excited about this work, and I think it's going well. Then of course you might have somebody who's rationing, talking about that person saying, well, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. They might have a different impression, so you get different impressions. But you get the truth. Then you might have other people who are supporting, saying, well, frankly, I'm glad you asked me, because I don't really think I have the time for this, and I'm not really, these people, blah, 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 and I don't really feel like, most of them don't really need help, and I think this, and I think that, blah, blah, blah. I thought I wanted to do this, but I don't really want to do it. And so they kind of talk themselves right out of the job. And then, of course, the members can see and feel. You can feel it when there's good fortune and things are going like, yeah, it's good. Look at that. Look how good that went. Or, it's like, oh my God, this doesn't feel good at all. Okay, so you do that really quickly and say, okay, so now we're going to vote again, on those people. And is there anyone else? Some of you, let's say some of you decided, if some of you decide you don't want to do this job anymore, I think I'll do this later. I don't feel like doing this right now. It's not working for me. It's very difficult. I couldn't deal with it, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the reason is, then sure, okay. So maybe you have some openings. You have some people that did pretty well, and they want to stay, and maybe reports about them are good, but you still vote. Okay, so you have that group. You say, okay, is there anybody else who feels like they want to do this now, or guided to do it, or anything else? And of course, you have to depend to some degree on the goodwill of your group. You don't have a bunch of evil devils there trying to manipulate things. That they actually genuinely would like to do this, and that they have been inspired. And we have this way of filtering, which is we wait until we're moved and we vote. And that's going to be our total defense. Pretty much, that's going to be how we're going to, helm this ship and get it to where it wants to go. So now we're going to vote on the same people again. And maybe some new people, maybe one or two of them will come in. Maybe some of the people that we voted on last time, now it's like, it's not working, so God stops it. So it's, your hand isn't moved. And the person might be upset about it, but later they'll go like, oh yeah, well actually that's right, because actually I was thinking and I didn't feel Anyway, so, but it's no big deal because you're just, a person that's volunteering to go and set the table right now. It's not some prestigious power thing that you're doing. It's just doing the work of the group that needs to be done. The babysitting, you're babysitting. And as you know, a babysitter can be a wonderful thing for a family to really help the kids and the family and everybody else, or they can be just not much help, and sometimes maybe not helping, and so on, making things worse. Although I think that's fairly rare, in the movies. Anyhow, so that's how you do it. So every 3 months, blah, 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 blah. Now, so what are you going to find? We're going to learn, the group is going to learn how to do this quickly and efficiently. It should go well, because then some of those people, it turns out, are really good at this work. Oh, they're so good at it. And they have the time and they have the inclination, and they're really very supportive of new members. Everybody wants to go and see her or him because they're so loving, or they're so kind, or they're so insightful, or they're so understanding, or they have so much knowledge. Those kind of people will rise to the top. So, when they're doing well. And so then when you vote for them, just about every time you already know what it's going to be, but sure enough, yeah. So they get support from the Almighty because they're doing the work, good work. So you might have somebody go along that, and every time they vote, they might be like that for many years, but eventually, they'll get tired, or they'll need a break, and then when you go to vote, it's like, no. It's not a criticism. It's because there's a time and a place for everything, and it varies in life. It's not all black and white. It's, different things are happening. Something's coming up in their life they don't even know about. At this point, they need to be doing something else besides being pretty intensely involved with new members and things. So it's like, no, it doesn't come. Okay, somebody else. Now, what, you reflect on that. You reflect on the soundness of this approach. And then towards the end, I'll probably tell you what is clear enough about that approach. Anyway, that's how you would run subud. That's how you would do it in the West. Now, if you had some other place where a king and queen, I don't know, they would know some sort of similar way that they would do things, but they would always, want to be moved to do something. And I don't know if I'll discuss testing anymore or not. It's a thing I could go on and on about for many, many hours, but it's also something that can easily be over-discussed, so I don't think I'll say anything more about it. If any of you have any particular questions, I'll try to answer them. Anyway, so this is the drama. We're seeing lots of people drop out because they didn't understand what it was they were doing. Their friends and they themselves were having ideas about it. They, were coming from the lower forces or from forces within them that didn't have their best interests in mind. And they would listen to their own thoughts or the thoughts of other people. And people outside the group, or even people inside the group, they would have arguments and fight and stuff, and they would drop out, for one reason or another, not realizing the precious gift that they were receiving from the Almighty, which is nothing new for man. I mean, the prophets have reported over and over again that people give up their soul for, just pretty quickly for the instant thing, like something's happening right now. You're not supposed to do it, but boy, what a big thing you're going to say, okay, yeah, and they go for it, and they shouldn't. And it messes them up And in that way, they give up, most of the rights of their own, their own being on the earth. And Sufi said none of this affects your eternal being, so you don't get to be too serious about it, I guess. Although I must say it's a pretty serious matter when you're here and you mess up it. And grief can be just something you didn't even think existed. Be you don't want to be there. Well, I remember Sue said once, you can get out of the abyss. There's an abyss, and you can get out of it. He said, but you don't want to. You don't want to be in that position where you're in the abyss and you're feeling for help. And that's right. You don't want to be there, do you? You don't want to be caught on the windy crag in the mountains with nobody around. You're about to slip and fall to your death. You don't want that kind of situation. So, just to recap briefly, so what we're doing here is we are looking into what happened to subud, talking about why didn't blossom and flourish all over the earth, why almost nobody knows about it right now. And hopefully this explanation in the end will satisfy you. You'll understand something of what took place. There are other things which we'll talk about, such as what Suvi envisioned for subud and what actually the Almighty, whether it might be other considerations of why it might go a different way. And then we'll come up to the present and discuss some more. Just all the you can't think of what you can't realize what the benefits of doing this exercise can be. They are for a human being. All right, I hope that was helpful. Didn't put you to sleep. All right. Okay, talk to you next time in part 5. Other aspects, we'll call that or something. Okay, bye-bye. No, no, no.